Alright, this is the world famous concoction bowl. This is a pre-workout meal. This is cream of rice. All it is granulated rice, but it digests really easy, and like a lot of people who have digestion issues with oatmeal, sweet potatoes, whatever, I switch them over to cream of rice and they do really well. So what I do is I mix half a cup, or I pour half a cup into a bowl, and that's about roughly 70 grams of carbs. And now I'm going to put a little bit of water in it, and you put less water in it than what the box says, because you want this, we're going to make it like a paste. We don't want it soupy, we want it like a paste. So I just cover it with water. And since this is a pre-workout meal, and that's a really fast-acting carb, we're going to add some fat to it. And all you really need is a tablespoon of nut butter. You know, if you get 8 to 10 grams of fat, that works perfect. And the goal is just to slow down how quickly glucose can get into your blood. You don't want to start your workout, go hypo, start sweating, feel like you're going nuts. So that's the reason why I use this. So I'm going to put a little, well, getting ahead of myself. First I'm going to microwave it. So when you microwave this, 40 seconds is what I do. So we'll do 40 seconds. Alright, so 40 seconds. You can see it's a little bit soupy, but it'll be more like paste once I mix it up. Okay, so now we're going to add the almond butter. You could use natural peanut butter. One thing I have noticed is like olive oil and oils like that don't seem to prevent you from going hypo for whatever reason. And now the final ingredient is Hershey sugar-free syrup. There's a few calories in it, but it's just mostly sugar alcohol. So, you know, 5 grams of carbs, 4 of it sugar alcohol. So if you can't get in shape with a little bit of this, then you're in trouble. So just enough in there to flavor it. Now we're going to mix it up. Ah, yes, look at that. Now this is just a tad bit soupier than I usually make it, but this is still good. So now, look at that, yummy. 70 grams of carbs, like I said, 8-10 grams of fat. And then we'll have protein with it too, but this is the concoction bowl that's pretty popular, and I just want everybody to see it. So there you go. Alright guys, many of you have asked what is in the big Nalgene bottle that I drink during my workouts. So I'm going to show you. I think most of you probably know what it is already because we've had a lot of discussions on it. This is a product called Plasma, and the key with this product is the carbohydrate source is branched cyclic dextrin, which it has a high molecular weight. You know, I think people really started talking about that when waxy maize came out, but that's only part of the equation. You also want it to be low osmolarity, so it'll clear fast out of your stomach. You don't want something sitting in your stomach when you train. So, and the protein source, this is a really high grade casein hydrolysate. And I say high grade because there are some companies that'll put, you know, they'll put just like a little bit of casein hydrolysate in it, and then they'll advertise that that's what it is. But the whole purpose of using something hydrolyzed is that it's broken down. The more of it that's broken down, the less your stomach has to digest. You don't want your stomach to have to digest anything while you're training. You want blood going to your muscles, not to your gut. So we're going to use this while we train. And you know, there's in terms of research, I think there's been a lot of research on the effects of having certain foods before you work out and after you work out, but I don't think there's really been a ton on while you work out. And I started competing in the 80s, which is a long time ago, and I think I've tried every single supplement ever created to man, and let me tell you, I was a sucker for marketing too. You put a cool picture on the bottle, I'm going to try it. But you know, this is the only thing I've ever taken that virtually eliminates soreness. And I know a little bit of soreness is okay, I don't dispute that. You need a little bit of an inflammatory response. But when you don't get sore and you can increase your training frequency and hit your muscle more often, I think that's a good thing. And as you guys know, I don't do any cardio, and that to me alleviates the need to do cardio. You're training so much. But so the branch cyclic dextrin in here, it drives insulin, and insulin while you train is a very good thing. It slows down muscle protein breakdown. There's a kind of a battle going while you train. There's muscle protein breakdown, and then there's muscle protein synthesis. So you want muscle protein synthesis to win that battle. So you have to kind of reduce muscle protein breakdown. And I use this analogy at my seminars. You want muscle to break down, but think about it this way. If you're digging a ditch and you dig it 5 feet deep, and then you have to have muscle protein synthesis 5 foot worth just to get it back to where you were. And we want to gain. We don't want to just get back to where we were. So what if we minimized how deep we dug that ditch? What if we only dug it, 1 foot? This is probably a gross oversimplification, but it's just the way I think about it. So the insulin that we get from this is going to really help with that. And the interesting thing about this is other carbs don't seem to do it. Maltodextrin, just other carbs, waxy maize that are out there. I've never seen this effect with them. So, I think Vitargo was one of the first ones that came along and said, hey, we have this real low osmolarity carb, and I think they were on the right track, and I think this is even better. So we're going to reduce muscle protein breakdown. And then the protein that we're adding in, the casein hydrolysate that's in the product, will help with muscle protein synthesis. So that's how we're going to win that battle. Now, I use this year-round, and what I use is 3 scoops on most days. On a leg day I might do 4. On an arm day I might do 2, or a light day I might do 2. And this is a little over 100 grams of carbs. I'll get up to 150 on the leg day. Sounds like a lot, but it's amazing how easy this settles in your stomach. That's one of the nice things about these broken down products too. They don't just sit in your stomach, they clear quickly. So here's 3. Now, if you want to be real manly, I dare you to drink this without flavoring. I dare you. Broken down, hydrolyzed protein is very, very, very bitter. And I mention it on the board sometimes, and people will say, oh, that stuff tastes horrible. I told you had to flavor it. So, thankfully, Biotest has this liquid flavoring that's really good. They have a bunch of different flavors. So we're going to flavor this so it actually tastes good. And the other thing is every once in a while somebody will say, well, John, that made me sick to my stomach. And every single time it's because they didn't use as much water as I said. You have to, you gotta, what's the word I'm looking for here? You can't concentrate it too much. You don't want it too concentrated. So you want to dilute it. I like to dilute it with 1,500 to 2,000 milliliters of water. If it's a leg day, probably 2,000. This is about 1,500 today. But you got to make sure you dilute it with enough water. I see people put it in this, and they'll put like three scoops literally in this with this much water. Then, oh, my stomach hurts. Yeah, I told you, you got to use water. So this is what I drink during my workout, and this is, I started taking this a couple of years ago, and like I said, my whole life I trained 4 days a week, and I did well. I got to the national level, And I pretty much was stuck at the same size for several years. I mean, if you look back through my competition weights, you'll see anywhere from 207 to 212 for years, year after year. And when I started using this a couple years ago, and it allowed me to train more, I like went through a growth spurt. It was really cool. It was like the first one I had went through in probably 15 years. So this is what I drink during my workout. Mix it up. It's good to go. And then the other thing is, and you'll see when we get done training, a lot of people talk about the post-workout window and it's kind of hogwash and things like that. And I think it's all relative. If you drink this during your workout, you've literally shoved a ton of carbs in you and fast digesting protein. I don't believe there's any reason to rush and get that post-workout meal in. Your body's got a ton of nutrition in it. So what I do is I wait usually like an hour and then I'll have a whole meal. Now if you don't drink this, or if you train fasted, then I do think that post-workout meal, you probably should get to it as quick as you can. But so we got our drink mixed up now, and now we're off to do a little back work.